Forests in Dungeons and Dragons. We know you're using them, but sometimes how we use them, you can be creative with. So let's talk about forests in D&D and how to use them maybe something a little bit different. First thing when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons and Forests, you should be using them to add cover to your campaign. What do I mean by that? Well, combat, right? But this doesn't just go for the bad guys. This goes for the good guys as well. Your good guys can launch an ambush. The bad guys can launch an ambush. It hides someone, has stealth tactics more viable. There's so many things you can do when it comes to a forest. What about cover when it comes to something more obscure? That hidden grove that's hidden deep within the forest through brush that's so thick that no one traverses. What about when you're trying to go through that brush and that cover has something that's hidden deep within the forest that's maybe a temple that's long forgotten? Cover doesn't just mean mechanically. Cover can also mean something thematically that's in the game that's been lost deep within a forest. Trying to walk a mile straight into a forest that's thick underbrush is a daunting task, especially when it's not just flat terrain. Forests are often accompanied by rolling hills or craggy cliff sides that then have different levels of forest on them, thick underbrush, and of course, dangerous creatures. So just keep that in mind. Cover provides cover for more than just tactics, but also hidden creatures and things of the past. In D&D, forests are also a great thing for abundant resources. This is a perfect place where the river and the forest meet, where there's almost always a village, a hut, some form of civilization. Where there's water, where there's trees, the only thing that keeps people out is monsters like these. So just remember, forests are great for abundant resources, but you can also hide things inside of them, magical things that the players may be looking for, but more often, things that maybe kings and dukes are looking for, or wealthy individuals that are hidden within a forest, cockatrice feathers, basilisk scales, all usually within a forest. Because why? The forest hides those things. Not only does it hide ancient civilizations, it hides magical creatures or even a magical fungus that's necessary. Forests are great places to basically plant ideas of things that could be there that your players may be looking for. Forests in Dungeons & Dragons are key to great encounters. The thing is, a lot of times we don't use them as such, meaning let's put a giant spider or giant spiders in a forest. Well, the first thing we would do is talk about the webs that the players encounter. What about an ambush spider? What about a spider that's waiting in wait for its prey? One that's trying to paralyze its foes, where they attack and then drag them off into the forest. Or if that spider actually gets injured, does it crawl into the trees high enough to where it can't be struck by your melee characters? And then starts to move through the trees high up, and the players traverse into it where they encounter other denizens of the dark. Remember, just because a creature attacks in the forest doesn't mean it can't run away. And maybe that forest is thick enough to leave for some difficult terrain where that creature doesn't suffer from the difficult terrain. Is the party a high enough level where the ranger can give its parties pass without trace to be able to move quickly through that? Does it provide the ability to move through that difficult terrain, or does just the ranger get it? How do you play your game depends an awful lot on how forest can be both a hindrance and a help to that. Maybe the party escapes into the woods, doing a path clear beforehand, basically finding a safe way through the forest so when they're retreating, they're not moving through the difficult terrain. The bad guys are. A little bit of prep and a little bit of creativity, that difficult terrain, that forest that gives advantage to the creatures can very quickly turn into one for the players as well. So forest can be used both for the bad guys and for the good guys. Just keep that in mind. Of course, navigation challenges when it comes to forests and Dungeons & Dragons is a thing. Difficult terrain. If you're not playing a survival campaign, throw this out. But if you're playing an action-oriented campaign, it can still be functional, it can still be helpful, allowing you to create high adventure stakes through a forest. Maybe that nobody goes through that. Maybe you have to take a caravan around that because the forest is getting in the way. Navigational challenges don't just affect the party. Maybe you are doing an escort quest, but you can't go through the forest and you're taking wagons. There's so many things when I say navigational challenges and forest that you have to deal with. A large oxen, large cart, a caravan, a group of merchants, or maybe even you traveling on horseback are going to struggle to go through an incredibly dense forest that forces you to go more of a river path, take a river, take a road. Those navigational challenges aren't there just to create obstacles for the party, to create ambiance that you may later exploit. So navigational challenges set the stage, set the tone for something around where the players are at. And of course, forests in mythical settings create an ambiance, an atmosphere, something that you as a dungeon master can use to your advantage. Going through sound bites and pulling spooky, mysterious forests out There's a reason we're terrified to walk through the forest at night. Is there a reason your players should be terrified to walk through the forest at night? That atmosphere and ambiance can be one of horror and one of terror, but it can also be one of beauty, one of intrigue. The Feywild in your world may not be scary. Maybe the Feywild inhabits those forests, and the forests have such an amazing relationship with the people, and something's threatening those forests, and so the players are there to help the forest dwellers out. Remember, forests don't have to be spooky. They don't have to be whimsical. They can be any combination of there in between. They can set an atmosphere that you want to set as a dungeon master. So remember that. The forest isn't one type of storytelling device. It's every type of storytelling device. The forest is the most useful and adaptive environment that you can put in a campaign. Full of life, full of creatures, full of mystery, magic, mayhem, spookiness, whimsicalness. The forest can set the tone. Or more should I say, you as the Dungeon Master can use a forest to set any tone you want. So, as always guys, thank you. Like, subscribe, comment below, be part of the community and help us grow this channel. And as always, I appreciate it. We will see you, what time? Next time.